Welcome to Insight Radio, powered by Vision Science Academy.
From London with Sucheta Mitra.
Welcome back to another episode of Insight Radio, the show where we delve deep into the world of vision science and bring you fascinating conversations with industry experts. Whether you are a student, a professional, or simply interested in the world of optometry, this show is for you. I'm your host, Sucheta Mitra, Education Engagement Manager at VSA and doctoral researcher at Cardiff Metropolitan University. Today we have a very special guest joining us, Mrs. Mariki Cilliers, an accomplished optometrist and visionary in the field of vision science. She completed her bachelor degree in optometry in 2008, and her passion for knowledge led her to be a licensed practitioner with expertise in prescribing ocular therapeutic drugs. Not only that, she is also a fellow of American Academy of Optometry. In addition to her clinical work, Mrs. Mariki is the founder of GuruMate, an innovative international learning platform that offers practical eye care training. She has also authored a highly regarded guide on anterior segment conditions and continues to contribute to the field through her writing. Her dedication to enhancing learning experiences led her to co-develop VisionWear RX, a virtual reality system for the screening and diagnosis of learning disabilities. We are honored to have Mrs. Mariki to join us today, as her vast knowledge and experience are sure to enlighten and inspire us all. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into the fascinating world of optometry, dyslexia, and the future of vision care. Welcome, Mrs. Mariki.
Thank you, Sucheta. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and I really appreciate you guys asking me to do this with you.
Thank you so much for accepting our offer as well. Mrs. Mariki, we are thrilled to have you. Let's start by talking about your journey in optometry. You completed your bachelor's degree in 2008, and since then you have received remarkable milestones. Could you tell us a bit more about your journey in this field?
Yeah, so it's always interesting when we have this discussion, because most people that I've spoken to, optometry just kind of fell in their lap. You know, it's not something that I chose for myself from the beginning. I actually wanted to be an emergency care medical surgeon, and that didn't work out for me. So this was kind of my second option. But I always say, you know, God has a way of knowing exactly where we should be. And optometry has just been an incredible journey for me. Being able to finish my degree, and then since then, just haven't stopped learning. And I think that's the main thing. You know, when you go into a field and you get passionate about what you do, you'll always continue to learn and grow in that field. And I've been privileged to be able to do that all of my time. I've been in the industry now almost 15 years, of which I've had my own practice for 12 of that time. And I've just been able to grow incredibly. And I just hope that I never stop learning and stop growing in the industry.
Yes, definitely. Learning never stops. And that's why you are also a founder of GuruMate. So what motivated you to create this platform, and what kind of training does it offer?
So the main thing with that is, I mean, all of us kind of tend to do some conferencing, and that involves quite a lot of travel. I've got 3 small children at home. At the time when I started GuruMate, my youngest was about a year old, and they were small, so 1, 3, and 5 years old. And traveling was a bit of a problem. So I just decided, you know, if we can make our expertise available in a much more accessible form, you know, everyone can benefit from it, because I always see the same people at the conferences. You always miss people that can't come because of traveling restrictions. So yes, I started developing it at the middle of 2019. And then, yeah, good or bad, I'm not sure, but then COVID happened. And COVID just kind of gave all of us a reason, you know, to do this and to actually develop it quickly. And it gave you time. So I was sitting at home for 6 weeks, and it gave me time to actually, you know, make my vision a reality. And the thing that was so special for me with GuruMate is the fact that I'm a very practical person. I need to be able to see what I do and teach what I do, and more so than just theoretical knowledge. So we decided that we wanted to do practical video training so that the people who learn from that can actually go back into a practice and do the things that we teach.
Yes, definitely. And COVID is the time when everything starts happening so fast. The virtual world, I would say, growed very fast.
Yeah, and it
So,
was insane how quickly everything just happened,
Yes, definitely. And everything from conventional teaching went to the virtual thing. So that's incredible, Mrs. Mariki, that establishing a learning platform in this fast-pacing world is no small feat. So can you share some insight into the work and efforts involved in getting started with GuruMed?
I was thinking about this question earlier, and I think I wanted to just say, if any of you guys want to do this, you're a little bit crazy because it's so much work and so much effort, but I enjoyed every second of it. And like I say, for someone who continuously wants to learn, it was such an experience for me to learn different skills that I've never learned before. So I completely developed it myself. I did my own website development. I did my own training developments. I did my own platform building developments, the videos, the editing, everything I did myself. And I'm very proud to be able to say that I've learned so many new skills in doing that. And I'm hoping that that will kind of continue. So at the moment, the platform has pulled in some more instructors. And then obviously me and my team will then take the information and then put it into the platform. But the amount of skills that you learn just by doing something outside of your normal business is incredible. And I've been able to take that back into the practice. I've been able to say, okay, well, I now know how to do web development, so I can actually manage my own practice website a lot easier and simpler than I used to do in the past. I'm much better with marketing skill. I probably did about 5 or 6 marketing courses throughout this time just to kind of get an idea of how this works. Because let's be honest, as medical professionals, we do not get taught how to market or how to promote anything, So it's really pulled into my actual practice, and I've been able to use a lot of that skill in my practice as well.
So if we ask you to jot down any 5 top points which are required to start a new learning platform or something online in the field of eye care, what will be those top 5 things?
The first thing has to be a passion for it. I mean, you have to be in a place where you actually want to do this. Passion can get you very far with anything. After that, I would say the skill to do it, or the right people around you to actually get it done. And then having a clear vision. What is it that you want to achieve? What is it that you want to get to in, say, 2 or 5 or 6 months from now? Without vision, you're not going to know whether you're actually going forward in what it is that you're doing, And then grit. You have to just be able to just put your bum in a chair and get it done. You have to have that, that way of just making sure that you just have the commitment, because otherwise you're going to start something and you're not going to finish it. And then I think the 5th one would probably be a support system. I think any new venture, you have to have people around you that support your vision. They might not understand your vision because people that love you don't always see what you have in store, but they have to just at least support that, And so if you have passion, you have support, and you've got these few key things in place, you can't go wrong.
Yes, definitely. Support system is mostly what we needed in life to succeed.
Exactly.
That is the most important thing. So, Mrs. Mariki, as a founder of an online platform, how do you believe that online teaching can bring positive changes in a way of conventional teaching systems?
There's so many benefits with online teaching. I mean, I believe that people have got more access to higher quality education. If people who are specialists in their field can teach online, anyone can have access to that. Where at a conventional teaching system, to be able to get those people into a university or whatever the case might be is very restrictive and it's very expensive. So I do not think conventional teaching will completely disappear. I think relationship and interaction is important, but there's a lot of foundational principles that are easily taught online, and people who are a lot smarter than myself who can teach them and who can actually give their expertise to the industry without having to get on a plane and go somewhere, So it has made information so much more accessible. I'm not that old, but I remember being at school, and you had to go to the library and go take out a book to read up on anything biology related. Now you just Google it, And the same goes for tertiary education. We should not be limited to the information that we get because we only can get it in a classroom. We should be able to have conversations like this and have platforms where students can just get as much information as they want. And, your capacity to grow is only restricted by your want to learn. You should be able to learn as much as you want.
Yes, definitely. And Mrs. Mariki, teaching subjects in the field of vision science can sometimes pose some kind of challenges, like especially when it comes to the subject which require more practical approach. So how do you overcome these sort of challenges and ensure that students receive well-rounded understanding of both theoretical as well as practical aspects of vision science?
Practical will always be a problem, I think, online, because there is just something to be said for doing something in person. Technology is actually bridging that gap incredibly well with virtual reality and things like that. And I believe in the future, we are going to have simulation devices which will be able to gain a lot of practical skill without physically having to be in a clinic. I'm very excited for that. I hope that happens in my era still, because I would love to be able to see it. And I really think simulation devices will take teaching to the next level, because if you can have a student that can do online teaching and simulation training for a certain amount of time, then you can actually take them out of a tertiary system and put them into a hospital setting much sooner, and you can spend more time having them only practicing full scope optometry in a hospital setting for a few more years compared to what we get now. If you look at the degree now, we may be lucky if we get 6 months or a year's worth of physical practical training. So I think if that can change and we can have 2 to 3 years where someone gets put at a physical hospital setting where they work like they would in real life, and the rest is done with remote training or with virtual simulation training, I think we will be able to have much better clinicians coming out of it at the end.
Yes, definitely. Future, if I would say life of a pilot, if I take an example, they do have simulators to take a go on first of their flight, but in terms of optometry we don't have stimulation of patients, so
Exactly.
That's a great idea.
Exactly. If pilots can do that now, again, you can't put a pilot in a plane if he's only been on a simulation device. He has to physically fly a plane. But a lot of the basic skill can be done in that way, and it can save a lot of time, and it can actually make students a lot more accurate in what they do.
Yes, definitely. Having said that, now we don't have simulators nowadays, but I see there are lots of online teaching platforms, those who are providing training to vision science students. So in terms of that, how we can improve our practical approach in that area?
So what we normally do is that we have the actual practical videos, where the videos tend to be in multi-view kind of recordings, so that a student has a view through the slit lamp, they have the view from external to the slit lamp, so they can really see what it is that I see when I do the technique, and they can see what it looks like from the outside as well, and that has proven to be very effective when it comes to basic techniques, especially slit lamp techniques, things like contact tonometry, gonioscopy, endoscopy, things like that. It's all about hands and movement, and if you can see someone do it, generally you can copy that fairly well, and then we have gone into doing Zoom training. So I would be on a Zoom and there would be a group doing this and I would be instructing from that position. Obviously, we still like to do workshops, at least having a live workshop once or twice a year, just to take these guys who's been doing online training and saying, okay, let's just get together. Let's just make sure your skill is where it's supposed to be. And not that you've learned all of this, but you actually haven't gone and practiced it at all, and you really only qualify that skill once you've seen the person do it physically in action.
Yes, definitely. So in online teaching, there are certain problems capturing the attention of students and promoting interactive learning session, which can be challenging sometimes. So could you share some of your magic formula to get the attention of the students and make it more interactive?
Yeah, attention is interesting because people have a very short attention span. Something that I learned is that when one does videos, it's important that you keep your video short, so you want to be able to do videos no more than, say, 5 minutes. Otherwise, you lose the interest. And you rather cut your material up in shorter pieces rather than trying to do one big 1 hour video, and it's always good to have some form of, like you say, interactive piece where they actually have to interact with the material that you are busy presenting to them. So either a click box or a tick box or something that they have to action while they're actually listening to the video itself.
Okay, that's Mrs. Marike. It is evident that your entrepreneurial skills has driven you to create such a valuable resources. And on a related note, many aspiring optometrists are sometimes consider starting their own venture rather than going to do a 9-to-5 job. So what are the key factors they should look out and consider when embarking their entrepreneur journey? And what advice would you like to give them?
I think there's very few, or there's too few entrepreneurs in the world, and it's something that I really want to encourage, because people are not encouraged to do this. And there's many ways of doing it. If you're an optometrist, you're a qualified medical professional, the first and easiest way to do that is just to have your own business, to have your own practice. And it's probably the safe way to do it because it's in an environment that we're familiar with. And out of that space, if it creates safety, shall I call it that? It creates financial safety, where from there you can embark and you can do all of these fun things. And I was very lucky that that's exactly what it looked like for me. The practice is the stability, the financial stability, which allowed me to kind of do other things. It allowed me to write the book. It allowed me the time to develop the platform. And it allows me the skill and the continuous growth in my skill so that I can teach it. Because if I'm not practicing, I can't teach something that I'm not physically doing myself, But entrepreneurship looks very different for many people. It doesn't have to be vision science related. I mean, it can be just about anything. And the world has become so small. You can do so much online, And from my perspective, I mean, I've got about 4 other online businesses which are not vision science related. And it's just because it's fun and I enjoy it and I love creating and I love building new things and I love seeing what I can do with it, So that is an entrepreneurial mindset, is what do I have, the resources that I have, and what can I do with them to create something new? And it has to be financially beneficial, but if it's not, then let it go and try something else, and not to be stuck in one mindset and say, well, this thing has to work this way, because it never just works one way. It can work more than one way, So, but I think foundation is important. I think all of us want a little bit of security financially, and then from there we can build out from that.
Yes, that's a fantastic advice. And on a related note, Mrs. Marike, you wear multiple hats. You have your own entrepreneurship, your own business, and you have authored a book as well as developed Vision Wear-X. So how do you manage the balance between the professional and personal life? You are a mother as well.
I knew you were going to ask me that question. Balance, I must be honest, has always been a bit of a challenge for me. I'm a very committed person. So when I do something, I tend to put 200% into that thing. The one thing I must say to the listeners is that very seldom do I find myself doing all of these things at the same time. So I think that's something worth noting. I tend to do one thing and then it settles, and then I'll go and I'll do something else. So each one of these things kind of happened in its own time, and the timing was just right, which allowed me space between my family and my work and the fun stuff that I do in between. And I tend to find that I start running out of steam the moment the things start to overlap. So I've learned that I have to finish something off before I decide to run off with something new. And if it's not finished, I have to kind of hold myself back before I can start with a new concept, you know. So the book was written. It took me 7 months to write it, and I published it. And when that was done, only then did I start the concept on GuruMed. GuruMed took me about a year to develop and complete, and only after that did we start with Visionware X. So the balance is always in not biting off more than you can chew, even though I've got like a million thoughts a second and there's a whole bunch of new things that always keep happening in my head. I have to just jot them down. So I've got like a noteboard, a big whiteboard where I write all my ideas down on, and I decide which one is the one that's now, which one is the right timing. And then I've got to drive that, you know, and make sure that I've create time for my family. So with family and work balance, I tend to make a time bracket. So I only work from 7 till 6. And I try not to do any other stuff between 6 in the evening and 7 in the morning other than my family, you know. And it's so easy to get stuck in front of your computer or busy on your phone, or, you know, I've quickly got to do this or quickly got to do that. But I had to just say to myself, everything just gets switched off after 6 o'clock in the evening, and it's time for the kids and for my family then.
That's an incredible advice, and you have incredible organizational skills.
I think it's one of my strong points, and I'm grateful. I think my family is grateful as well.
Yes, definitely. And now let's shift our focus to dyslexia, an area where you have made significant contributions. So how does dyslexia intersect with optometry, and what role can optometry play in supporting those individuals with dyslexia?
So dyslexia is a very interesting situation because it's a very broad area, and it involves a lot of professionals. I have found though that optometry is the first point of contact. You know, parents will always come and say, okay, the kids are struggling to learn or they're struggling to read. They've been told to get their eyes checked, you know, so that's always the first line. And we kind of have to then do all of the things that we do, make sure everything's in place. But a lot of times the parents from there don't know what to do after that point, you know. And I started the road on dyslexia as, again, a knowledge thing. I wanted to understand it. I wanted to see what it was about. I wanted to figure out how this whole thing fits together, mainly so that I could send my patients to the right place. And then since then it's kind of developed, and there's programs now that allow optometrists to also do a basic diagnosis, which really helps the process a lot. But parents need to know what to do. Parents need to know where to take their children. And we as optometrists are the ones who get those questions, you know. So we need to be able to say to the parent, okay, if I can't help you, then this is what you need to do, or this is what you need to do. And without the knowledge, we can't do that.
Yes, and as we know that children spend most of the hours in the setting of the school, and they always be around with teachers and and the parents of the children. So what role do they play, and what are the early signs they should look out for?
I think teachers play the most important role, because a teacher can either help a child or they can break a child. And with teachers, it's always difficult because they're overwhelmed with the amount of children that they deal with and things like that. But Some of the signs are the fact that children are incredibly intelligent. You're sitting with these kids that are bright, they are smart, they are clever. Usually they are good all-rounders, good sports performers as well. Yet their academical performance just doesn't add up. You know, they either are really bad at math or really good at it, one or the other. But most oftentimes it's a reading problem. So these kids read at a very, very low speed, very low rate, and a very bad understanding of what it is that they read. But when you speak to them and you actually have a verbal conversation with them, they will tell you everything from the one side to the other. Their knowledge is incredible, you know, but trying to actually bring it back across, writing it down, or actually reading a book, they battle a lot with that, you know. So I think that's one of the big things for teachers to look out for. And teachers need to be aware that they need to manage children's emotional situations as well. One of the biggest issues is that children are incredibly anxious and they become incredibly depressed because of the classroom emotional attachment that comes to children that can't read. Kids laugh at each other, you know, children or teachers will scream and shout, or teachers will rebuke a child for not being able to read. And it's really causing a lot of emotional damage to their children. You know, and the same goes for the parent. A parent is at a loss for words because they know their children can produce better results, yet no matter how hard they try, they just don't get there. And I think our jobs as professionals is giving the parent and the teacher the tools to help these children, you know, to focus on their strong points and actually make for a healthier, happier child, but help the parent and the teacher work with these children better, because we're going to develop much better adults if we do that.
Yes, definitely. And thank you for highlighting the role of both teachers and the parents in their journey. And definitely their awareness and proactiveness will enhance their educational experience as well. So, Mrs. Meriki, as we all know that dyslexia is a complex learning disorder and it can be accompanied with many other factors as well. So, one of them is visual stress. So could you provide some insights into visual stress and how it coexists and how we can, as an optometrist, differentially diagnose dyslexia from any other visual symptoms?
The main thing with any form of, let's say the main thing with children is that you cannot take shortcuts. You know, as optometrists, we have to do our job and our basic binocular vision and pediatric assessments really, really well. You cannot say a child is dyslexic if you don't even know what their phoreas or their visual acuity is, for that matter, you know. So it's important to do a full visual assessment, and very, very important to make sure that the binocular system is healthy and happy. I will always diagnose and treat binocular vision issues before I do a dyslexia assessment, because you cannot say a child can't read if he's diplopic when he's reading, or if his amplitude is not right, or if his visual motilities is a problem, you know. So you have to make sure that you fix the basics, and a lot of the reading problems can be managed well if a child's visual function improves, you know. So that I think is very important to say. So please do not miss that step before you head over, and it's kind of a building block thing, you know. We have to think about this as building blocks. You know, you're going to put the visual acuity and refraction underneath, and you build all of these blocks on top of it. And dyslexia's assessments are very far on top of those blocks. You've got to just get all the basics done, you know, because then at least when you get to a diagnosis, a dyslexia diagnosis, you know that there's no other visual symptoms, no other visual stress issues at play here, you know. And visual stress is a big thing. We all know it from optometry, from what we've learned, is we have to make sure that visual stress is not the actual reason that these children are actually having a problem.
Yes, definitely. Mrs. Meriki, thank you for sharing these insights, and definitely optometrists should consider these factors whenever they are evaluating children. So can you share some insights into the impact of vision therapy or any specific interventions in managing dyslexia?
Yeah, so when we talk vision therapy, again, like I say, we have to separate the visual stress and the binocular vision from the actual dyslexia side. You'll probably have a bit of both with these children, and you might want to do vision therapy as well as dyslexia therapy at the same time. And this is where the joint work between the professions actually become incredibly valuable. As an optometrist, I don't have the time and the resources to put into dyslexia therapy as such. I have a junior that does my vision therapy in the office, and then hopefully virtual reality will take us into a place where this type of therapies will be able to be done at home. But when it comes to dyslexia therapy, I think there are specialists that are much more equipped than we are to do this, which is your occupational therapists. They are trained to work with kids. They are trained to do motoric therapy and actually help these children with learning methods to improve the situation that they're dealing with. So I work very closely with an educational psychologist and an occupational therapist and a speech therapist. So those are the three with myself as optometrist. I function as the diagnostician. I'm the one that gives them the information, and from there, the educational psychologist will do their assessments, and then from there it goes to the therapists, which is the occupational therapist and the speech therapist. And they will spend specific training time on either visual training, whether it be normal motility training and stuff like that, and they will then also focus on dyslexia training. And when you're looking at dyslexia, there's different types, and we won't get into that, but when it's like a motoric dyslexic, which they've got the rotations or the flipping of letters, that is quite easy to train with an OT, and they just do laterality training. So this is something that I really encourage people to use the other professionals they have around them to get the training done effectively.
Yes, definitely. And collaboration is the key actually. So, Mrs. Marike, you co-developed VisionWare RX, a virtual reality system for screening and diagnosing learning disabilities. So, could you share some of the insights how this technology works?
We were very excited when he started doing this because, again, the barrier we had with dyslexia screening and diagnosis was the ability for people like ourselves who are actually able to diagnose and screen to get into the world and actually reach as many children as possible, So the idea was to develop a hardware and software system that can literally do this, and I can manage it remotely, but it can go into any country, any rural, any area in the world, and we can help these children, So the system is based on the Stark Griffin Dyslexia Academy system, which is co-developed between Dr. Griffin from the US and Mrs. Sandra Stark from South Africa. And it's a program that is incredibly well researched in screening and diagnosing dyslexia. So we literally took that program and we built it into a virtual reality system. So it's very similar to the paper-based system, except it's a lot cooler and it's really fun and the kids enjoy it, and like I say, all I need the hardware, the headset to be somewhere. I can be in my office here in South Africa and the headset can be anywhere as long as there's Wi-Fi, and I can screen and diagnose any child from anywhere. And I'm really excited about it. I'm excited to be able to screen more kids because I think they're falling through the cracks quite a lot. And depending on the countries, some countries are open to dyslexia assessments and some countries are not, and we want to be able to really support these kids that are struggling, and I'm hoping that this technology will be able to do that.
Yes, having said that, what are the screening parameters VisionWare RX is calculating, and will it only calculate for dyslexia or it also diagnose or screen other learning disabilities also?
So from what you've learned from me, you'll know that I'm a little bit of an excessive person. So my dreams are very big. Obviously, we wanted to be able to do everything. We are currently working on visual fields and color vision as well, which is not a difficult thing to do. It does eye tracking as well. And then obviously the system that has been built now has been specifically built on the diagnostic concept. But the idea is to be able to put it on a child and you'll be able to get a plethora of information. So visual acuity, visual field, color vision, and in virtual reality, which is something I need you guys to understand, is there's so many more factors we can control for, which you cannot do in a subjective environment. Visual fields are way more accurate because you can physically move the stimulus according to the visual focus. So there's so many things that makes virtual reality a lot more accurate. And I'm really excited about how that's going to translate into data. The other thing that obviously is important going forward is to be able to, have it available at a cost-effective price, but have like a complete screening tool, which can go into the school and you can literally get this whole picture of this child and say, okay, where does this child need to go now? Okay, do they have to go to the optometrist because they've got a visual function issue? Do they have to go to an occupational therapist for training? And even we're looking at even doing like things like keratography or topography for screening of keratoconus, and then obviously retinal screenings. And so the possibilities are absolutely endless. But Rome wasn't built in a day, so one has to start somewhere and kind of build your way into it.
Yes, definitely. And it is amazing that how technology is advancing day by day. So on a related note, as we know that technology is advancing, such as virtual reality, so how do you think it is shaping the optometry field?
I think it's changed a lot since when I started practicing, but optometry is still very resistant to technology change. I've been working in the technology space in visual science for probably about 3 years, and I still find it very hard to find practitioners who are willing to move into a different way of doing it. We are very stuck into our traditional ways of refraction and visual examinations. The thing is, I think we have to look at it differently, and people are scared of technology because they're scared of it replacing us as professionals. It will never replace us, but it can make us a heck of a lot better at what we do, because it can save us a lot of time, and it will definitely make our diagnostic ability a lot better. 50 years ago, we didn't have OCTs and topographers, and now we can't think of our lives without them. And I really think this is what it's going to look like in the space of augmented reality and virtual reality, and then obviously artificial intelligence brings a whole nother aspect into this, which is going to make the work that we do a lot more accurate. So I think we have to embrace it. We have to see where it actually fits into our paradigm in our businesses and try and incorporate it as quickly and as comprehensively as possible, because of two reasons. Mainly, number one, the technology is going to come. And if you don't shift, you are going to be left behind in an old way of doing things. And secondly, patients are going to go where the technology is, because we are in the last 10 years of people who are no longer technology savvy. So I would say in the next 10 years, we are going to only have patients that know cell phones, that know social media, and that want this experience of a virtual environment. So you're either going to lose them to an online shop, or you are going to create something in your practice that makes them want to come in to experience what it is that you can deliver. So take control of it and make it part of your practice instead of trying to avoid it and losing your patients to an online store.
Yes, definitely. And thank you. You said that breaking the mind barrier especially, is the key factor. Otherwise, you're going to lose the patient. As the technology is advancing, the patient's level of the patients is also decreasing day by day, and they want more cooler things.
Exactly.
So, yes, we as an optometrist, we have to break the barrier. So, Dr. Mariki, let's shift our focus to our book. Congratulations to your book.
Thank you.
Know I'm a bit late, but it's never too late.
Never too late.
So, could you tell us more about the book, Practical Guide to Anterior Segment Conditions, and how we can relate to it?
So the anterior segment book was again a need that I had. So when I started specializing in anterior segment and therapeutics, we were given this reading list, so this is the books you want to go and get, of which the main one was the Will's Eye Manual, which is a therapeutic textbook. And I remember getting that book thinking to myself, oh my word, this is it's so overwhelming. It's so small. It's printed so small. There's almost no pictures in there. And I'm like a picture person. I can't read. I can't focus if I don't have pictures. And it's not relevant. It wasn't relevant to the drugs that we had available in a third world country. It's relevant to a first world country drug list. But any third world country, we had a problem because the drugs that they use is just not something that we can get our hands on. So I finished my therapeutics qualification, and shortly after that, I just spoke to my mentor, and we said, you know what, let's write one that's firstly a little bit easier to read, something that's a reference guide, a quick guide, something that you can pick up while the patient is still in your chair, but also something that's valid in terms of what drug is available at your hands, and not the ideal drug that you might not be able to find. So the therapeutic guide is literally a 2-page per condition. So for instance, it's got 4 chapters. Lids and lashes, then conjunctival, corneal, and then there's a trauma chapter and a dry eye chapter as well. And each condition is just on 2 pages. So you'll have bacterial conjunctivitis. There's a short description of what it is, how to diagnose it, the patient's symptoms, and symptoms are shown in icons and pictures. So you can quickly see what the symptoms are. So you don't have to literally read the words. And then there's a treatment protocol, what drops you should use, how often you should use them, what the contraindications might be for those drops, So it's just really such a quick and handy tool for when you are managing anterior segment pathology.
Wow, that's incredible. I think we should get that book because in the clinical setup, we always need something quickly to review, or whenever we forget something, we can go to.
No, it's very, very in a clinical space. So we've sent a lot of these books into nursing as well. So the primary care nurses use them as well because, they first line in emergency care, and it's something I get these phone calls from the nurses at emergency care. So we said, no, let's send some of these books through to there. So the book is available on Amazon as well at the moment in an electronic version only. But you guys are welcome to have a look for it on Amazon.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Mariki, one thing I'm curious to know about, we are shifting from a conventional way of learning to the online platform, and everything is going from the conventional way to the online thing. So right now we are developing I have seen patients, those who have developed dry eye symptoms, or they don't have dry eye, but they do have irritations, itching all the time. I have one in my house as well. So how can we cope up with the situations? Because they feel like that the drugs, the lubricating drugs, are not that much efficient. So what are the advices would you like to give them?
Yeah, computer dry eye is a big issue because there's a couple of factors that create the problem. And you'll always hear when I speak about dry eye, I get very philosophical and quite passionate about it because it's not just as simple as it sounds. It's not just as simple as just putting an eye drop on me. And that's why a lot of people say, okay, but I'm using an eye drop, but it's making no difference. And the reason for that is we have to understand the mechanical as well as the biological problem. Where is the issue, and fix the issue, not treat the symptom. And if we're going to keep treating the symptom, you are not going to make people happier because it's not going to do what it needs to do. So predominantly with dry eye, you have to figure out, is there just a mechanical side? So with computer, you have less blinking, the blink rate decreases, the blink quality decreases, So even if you put a drop on there, if the blink is not going to improve or restore itself, the symptoms are just going to continue, And then is there a pathological problem? Is there a aqueous deficiency? Is there a meibomian gland deficiency? And once there's a full picture, it's a lot easier to say, okay, but this is the problem. if I can say maybe with computer people, the main thing there is the amount of time that you spend. You have to take yourself away from your computer and literally do some blinking exercises, because if you're just going to actually get your blink functioning, the MABIM can express only when the blink closes. And when you're in front of the computer, the eyelid doesn't blink all the way. So people have to literally go and walk away, make a cup of coffee or look outside the window and literally just kind of do a few blink exercises. And that should improve their symptoms even better than putting an eye drop. But yeah, dry eye is not just a one size fits all fixed problem.
Yes, that's a fantastic advice though. Thank you, Dr. Mariki, for such an incredible journey with you, and I'm glad I met you.
Same here, and thank you for the opportunity. It's always so fun to have conversations like this.
Yes, unfortunately, we are running out of time. But before we wrap up, could you share any upcoming projects or initiative or any advice that the listeners want to know?
I think, for me, I've gotten to a stage where I'm slowing myself down a little bit, just because my children are in a stage where they need a bit of my time. I say that now, but I'll probably have a new project very soon. There is some in my head, but I'm trying to just slow myself down a little bit. So I think the main thing I want to say is, you know what, guys, you have to just chase your passion. Life is way too short to sit every day and just do what you do day in and day out without actually being energized by what you do. If you can wake up in the morning and you're excited about what you're doing, you're going to have a good day. So don't be scared of chasing your passions. Don't be scared of taking a chance and writing a book. I mean, I would never have thought that I would write a book. And a friend of mine just said, I just do it. So I just did it, And it's just one of those things you have to just get up in the morning and say, okay, you know what, I'm just going to do this thing. And the same with whatever you decide to do, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's optometry practice, just be passionate about what you do. And if your focus is on changing people's lives, you can never go wrong.
That's incredibly valuable advice by you, Dr. Mrs. Mariki. So thank you for being such a wonderful guest on our show, and your journey is truly inspiring. It inspired me as well.
Thank you so much. And I'm really, I'm saying it again, but thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my journey. And you guys are doing a great job.
We wish you continued success in all your endeavors.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to all our listeners for tuning in to another episode with Mrs. Mariki. We hope you enjoyed our conversation. And this is Insight Radio, where we envision the future of vision care one voice at a time. So stay tuned for more insightful discussions on the world of optometry. Until next time, take care and keep exploring the fascinating realm of vision science. Thank you, Mrs. Mariki. I loved the recording this episode. I loved it.
Thanks, Sucheta. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it's so much fun, and I love meeting new people. I hope, this was sufficient, but I appreciate the time.
Thank you so much. Your advices are really something I have to take care also. Actually, I'm doing my PhD in visual stress as well. That's why I wanted to know more about it.
And you're welcome to send me an email anytime. I'm definitely not a specialist in visual stress, but when it comes to the practical side of things, I think it's a valuable thing to know how it actually comes about when you're dealing with people and not just in a clinical setting.
Yes, thank you so much. I'll definitely get in touch with you.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this episode valuable, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Never miss an episode.
Insight Radio. One vision, many voices.